think like, overnight success, or you're just so fit and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but like I wasn't always there. Like I had to work really hard to get here. The pain of that old life is probably what pushes me to keep doing the calls, keep going to the gym, keep reading the books.
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%. Empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design.
Welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast. Our goal, of course, is to empower agents to think bigger and live a life by design. Today, we are joined by Keri White, who runs a top producing real estate team, the Keri White team at Human Element Real Estate in Los Angeles. Keri is also very well known for her exceptional social media presence. Keri, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here on Light It Up on a Friday. Fantastic.
Let's do it. Let's jump into this. We're really excited to have you here.
We're gonna take a quick shot for you.
We're taking a shot. I didn't know we were starting with the shot.
Oh.
Let's do it.
Okay, I have champagne.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, she was prepared.
I like this.
Was that behind the screen?
It was a prop that was from last week. It's warm. Anyways, cheers.
We had Dan O'Neill on a couple months ago at this point. That didn't hit, huh?
Which one?
You hurt?
It's been a while.
She drank week-old champagne.
I respect
think you can man it up.
All right.
All right. So
I'm sure you did a lot of shots with Dan O'Neill.
well, we were doing whiskey, and he said, all I have is Kahlua. It was something very sort of feminine. Malibu.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think he had a Malibu Bakeries. Yeah.
Okay,
Something
good.
like that.
We're taking shots because he's not here. All right. So I like this question. I ask a lot of people this one, and I tease you about asking the same question over and over again. Keri, how do you get in the way of your own success?
Oh, okay. Easy. I was just turning my phone on silent. As much as we know not to do this, getting attached to the outcome with clients or transactions, some of those clients, they just really wrap you in. So when you get a little too close to the deal, so you always have to keep your emotions so detached from your clients or transactions, from your team. I just think when you're really passionate about what you do and you care a lot, you tend to get a little emotional. And if you're letting that be your roller coaster, then it can not be good. And then how else, just like the same as everybody does, just getting too in your head. So especially with the market shifting and opening a new brokerage and keeping the team growing, like there's been so much more mental toughness that I've had to step into the last few months. But I think all of us, no matter what, we always get in our own way. I was just watching on Netflix, I think it is, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a, can I swear on this?
Yep, you're good.
Not giving a fuck. The book, but he did a documentary on it, and he's talking about all this stuff that happens in our head and like just what we're trained to think and how we get ourselves down. And we're all just like being human, trying to do the right thing and make ourselves happy every day. And that's really the goal more than anything else.
Yeah. Just to give some context for people who don't know what the book is about, but everybody's walking around thinking that other people are thinking about them.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's just like we're all maniacs thinking that way. When
We're just
no one
thinking
really
about
cares.
ourselves, right?
No one's paying attention.
Right. So when someone's mean to you at the grocery store, like you're always so upset about it. Now I'm like, oh, I feel so bad for them. I wonder what happened to them. Have a good day. Don't care anymore.
That's golden. One thing I'll say, and I'll go into my question, is, when we were prospecting, the first, I don't know if it was a Harvard study that they did, but they said that the fear of making outbound prospecting calls is equivalent to like a fight or flight response in the body when you're in danger.
Wow.
This could be completely full of shit, but that's so true. When you're first making those phone calls, you're like so horrified of the reaction. But then when you realize that the person's either miles and miles away, they can't hurt you, they don't know you, and if they're mean on the other line, it's because they're just reflecting what's happened on their day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, he has a really good video that's about kicking the cat. Do you know that story?
No, kicking the cat, no.
So it's like this boss, he's like running late, and he's pissed at his assistant. The assistant's getting pissed that the boss got mad at her. And then she's being rude to another client. And then the client goes to a restaurant, pisses off the waitress. The waitress goes home and she's yelling at her son. And then she just kicks the cat. And then the son's just like, like pissed at the cat. So it's like, it's just a domino effect of people just kind of, what's in their mind is what they're projecting out there. So
energy is so powerful.
Yeah.
Truly. More powerful than you want it to be sometimes, right?
it's something that would love to, I love it. I wish it was simple, not complex to learn.
I agree. Yep.
All right. Men need to be better at blank.
Reading minds? No.
That sounds like an answer from a man, though.
Men need to be better at just simply saying nice things all the time. Literally. Even when you're throwing up. Babe, you look beautiful. Just all the time. Everything is solved with compliments. Like, my dad always gave me lots of compliments, so I'm always trying to get my husband. So men, yeah, it solved everything. World peace, probably, by just telling women they're beautiful all the time. Try it.
See?
Words of affirmation is your love language?
Gosh, I like them all. I take all the love languages. I want gifts. I
why
want
choose one?
I want touch.
Fair.
Acts of service,
Fair
quality time.
Yeah. I don't know. What's yours?
Why do you have to pick one?
Because mine's is words of affirmation and physical touch. So I'm like, I get that. like I feel that. So
I'm probably affirmation too, words of affirmation more than touch. But yeah.
It's funny. Every time I try to touch you, you don't take.
because it's not in a friendly way though. That's the problem. You need to teach him how to do
It's
that.
an exciting way.
Mine's acts of service.
Is it?
Yeah. Which everybody, I guess just do stuff for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. Mine's
All right.
definitely not acts of service.
All right. What are some big turning points in your life?
I think you never quite know how good it's going to be until you do it. And understanding that main philosophy, you'll take more chances. It is very challenging to step into anything in life. Like, comfort is what we love as human beings. And that's why this market has been so wild for so many buyers and sellers, because it rapidly changed so fast. Everyone's like, we don't do change very well. That's a common thing. Houses, you move every 5 to 7, maybe 7 to 11 now on average. But when you get older, you're in your house 20, 30, 40 years. So change is very scary. So accepting that every time I stepped off the ledge, that everything just got better and better. But definitely when I created my own team in 2013, that was a big pivotal moment, going on my own, doing all my own systems. There was a book that I read, a John Maxwell book. I think it's 13 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership. And it was end of 2013, beginning of 2014. My family's from Australia and New Zealand. We were down visiting, and I was sitting on the beach reading this book, and I just started my team, and I was really feeling negative about myself and my life, and I was going to be 30 soon. I was single. I'm like, I want all these things. And I started reading this book, and I was expecting it to give me answers on who I needed to know or what I needed to do. But instead it went through who I needed to be. And from that point forward, I feel like everything opened up for me, because I never wanted anyone to do something for me. I always knew that I would bring to the table what I wanted, my intention. And if it was the right opportunity, it would come back to me. So really that, and also meeting my husband, that was honestly a pivotal moment. I don't want to give him credit, but so I'm going to go with the book, early 2014. Just kidding. No, but all of that happened around the same time. But it definitely learning that self-responsibility that so many of us don't want. We always want to blame other people when we don't get things. Things don't go our way. And it's really always us that is to blame. Even when your assistant fucks something up, it's still your fault. So just sit in that. Yeah.
There's so much that you said in there that I don't even want to read any of you said anymore. Can I just dig in one more question?
Yeah.
All right. So you said something that's really important about the person that you need to be, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times when people get through setbacks, they think of what they need to do. But first, you have to go through the be, do, and have to get the outcome that you're looking for. So when you're struggling in that situation where you're like, well, what do I need to do? How can you actually say, you know what, I'll invest the time to be this person when you know that the actions and the activities aren't in alignment? Do you get my question?
Faith, right? If I got your question, my answer, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to be there when you're not there, right? Yeah. So we're saying, be it, and then you can do and you can have. And when you're so far from where you want to be, that's where you really dig in and drink a lot of vodka to get you there.
Yeah.
Right? Does that kind of make sense?
A relatable analogy I can give is a great salesperson, when they start a team, they now say, okay, great, I'm going to bring people underneath me. But then they understand that the person they need to be is not a salesperson, but a leader. And if they take a step back from the activities that they're producing, there's an immediate pain that they feel.
Mm-hmm. Income.
income, but now they need to try to become the person that they need to be to lead.
Yeah.
So there's just like an immediate shock, but then it's always like a conflict inside, like an internal conflict. Like, do you recruit or do you prospect? Do you recruit or do you prospect? Which one do you
prospect? You prospect.
You see, so you'd say prospect, but then the leader would say recruit, right? But then that's the toughest part. Like Chan Cheplak, I know that you've been around him as well. Is that true or false?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he's really big on recruiting people and attracting people. And that's like his whole thing. And I feel like there's a big science to it, but unless you're able to schedule things correctly and like to a T, that's extremely difficult to actually accomplish.
Well, I think prospecting and recruiting are similar. But recruiting and leading is different.
True.
So you could be great at prospecting, sorting, like we always talk about, sorting leads.
Yeah.
Sorting agents, recruiting, building out your team, building out your pipeline of listings. But then leading is just a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's funny because like obviously opening the brokerage changed a lot of things the last couple of weeks, but the more you get so like in the trenches of how the real estate world works, you really question like, what does anybody buy or sell with just a average agent who sells 1 or 2 houses a year, when this is such a powerful industry of people who take it so seriously and can really help you get the house, get a better deal, get a better price, like all these things. And I wish that was more known to the public. Not that that was anyway the question.
Agreed.
But it is very true. As you advance in your career as a real estate, if you actually get into real estate and you want to take it seriously, that's a whole, you get a coach, you do the prospecting, you have the systems, and you're a little CEO. But then when you want to grow a team, you get into going from sales to leadership. And then it's a whole different stack of books on your nightstand, right? Because you can't just lead by example. You can, but there is such a more of an intimate level you need with these agents and helping them figure out, even if they're scripting, they don't exactly know how to handle the conversations. And so I agree. That's what I've learned leading a team, is you have to time block your day a little better and just expect things to shift a bit while you're giving back to the team. But hopefully that comes back tenfold.
Yeah. I think what you said there was really important too. It's not just leading by example. And I thought that early on, that I was just like, hey, this is what worked for me. I'm going to do it in front of you, meaning make outbound calls, call my database, just do what I do. Just do it.
Yeah.
And then, people divert and try to do it different ways, and they're changing the script and changing the process. And can I make the calls in the afternoon instead of the morning? And can I just follow up and say this? Do I have to leave a voicemail? And it's just they're not going to do exactly what you do because they're not you.
Yeah.
Right.
Talking about it almost brings up like we started a brokerage.
Pain and suffering.
Yeah, we started a brokerage in 2020, right? So, and that was, we were like, all right, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to sell real estate, blah, 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 blah. But you realize there's so many pain points that you never even think about. It's like, who's ordering the office supplies for X, Y, and Z? And then, well, that person didn't show up. Why don't you hold them accountable? You got to manage different people in different roles. And you're like,
totally.
Like, why can't they just work for themselves? Like, why can't they just want it for themselves? Which is, I think, is the hardest thing, right? Because you can be a highly motivated person internally. You don't need so much external pressures, because you can talk to yourself and be like, I got this. I'm going to do this. I want these things. I'm going to get it. But when you have people underneath you, it's like mind-boggling. They don't want the same thing.
And maybe they think they do. Like they think they're working their ass off, but you're like, that's not even close to what you need to be doing. So their perception of hard work and putting in the grit is not, what it takes, because everybody has just such a different upbringing, education, skill set, way of thinking.
Yeah. No, that's solid. I was reading a book about essentially like culture and the people you keep around you. And essentially, if you have like a bunch of people who aren't really doing anything, and you're the best person out of that group, you're going to feel so comfortable and in your element.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hate that.
Yeah. But the second you go in a room where everybody's better than you, then you have to level up, you have to grow, and the development starts at that process.
It's such a good feeling though. Yeah.
But that's why I genuinely, like, sometimes within our team, I genuinely look around and I'm like, I actually feel bad that I'm not bringing in a killer to scare the shit out of all of you people. You know what I mean?
You can put that on your, job hiring. I need a killer.
Yeah. I want you guys to be terrified.
Ghost-faced killers.
But no, there's an agent on my team. She's 19 years old. Yep. She sold, I don't even know how many homes last year. She, first year in the business. She's 19 years old.
90 something grand.
She made something like $90,000.
Damn,
sold
that's awesome.
15, 16 homes in her first year. And she's still a full-time college student. But now she's getting a little bit complacent. I know she watches these, so I'm going to try to put a fire under her quickly. But I was teasing her yesterday. I was like, I interviewed a girl. She's actually 17. And
what are you doing up there?
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Well, you guys
can't even qualify
don't
for her
twist it,
license.
guys. I was just saying that she was younger than her. Whatever. She's 18. She's fresh off the exam, and I think she's looking like she's going to sell 25 something homes this year, 25, 30 homes, and I just need to put her in a position where she feels a little bit more.
You're a psychopath.
Competitiveness.
That's hilarious. Well, it's interesting you say that. When you start to coast, sometimes you feel a little less motivated, but that I think just depends on who's around her or both of those people. Because if you have people that are doing more bigger things, then you'll start to feel like, okay, yeah, because they do really influence you.
100%.
Yeah. You want to be motivating yourself, and that culture helps that. But Keri, one thing that, when we were talking about it earlier, right now your average price point is 1.7 million.
Yeah.
So from the outside in, everybody's like, oh, well, it's like, $1 million listings. What's that new show called?
Buying Beverly Hills.
Oh yeah. Selling Sunset, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, she's in that lifestyle, but they don't see the work that goes in the background and the amount of hours that's invested. And John always likes to say that it's a lifestyle. And I agree 1,000%. It is a lifestyle.
You're not signing up for a career. This is not a job.
No.
You're changing your life. This is, if you want to do this at a high level.
Yeah.
And especially go even further and say like, start your own brokerage like you and your husband did.
Yeah.
It's a total lifestyle change.
We had 90% failure rate for real estate agents. 90% basically means you're going to fail.
Well,
right? Are you the 10%?
Do you have it in you?
Well, that's why everybody puts 10% or top 1% on their bio.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're number one. We're all number one.
It's interesting though, because when we asked you, hey, what do you want to talk about? And I said, Keri, like obviously we hadn't met or really had an in-depth conversation before this. What do you want to talk about today? And you were like, you know what? We talk about the social media stuff all the time. Let's talk about what's going on behind the scenes, the grit, all the bullshit, all the stuff, the putting out fires, all the stuff that we have to do every day to maintain this lifestyle, to maintain this business, to, if you're on top and you're number one in your area last year, how do you maintain that this year? So go a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah, it's great that you asked that, because I think that consistency is what I think about Darren Hardy, because he always said there is no willpower in life, there's why power. So you have to constantly think of what you want and why you want it to keep doing the things. It's so easy not to do the things. Like you can have things coming at you. What do they call that? Being reactive, where you're like, okay, getting referrals or getting buyers or whatever. So that you're just getting whatever the world's giving you. But if you're being proactive and you're sitting open houses that are at a higher price point or hanging out in different areas or joining better volunteer groups or, organizations that have a higher net worth of people, you're naturally going to fall into being able to react to higher quality leads. But that's because you're being proactive about changing your lifestyle. So that goes along with, everything that we do, we don't want to really do any of it. Like, you want to have the fun weekends and nice dinners and the drinks and the vacations. But if you did that every day, you wouldn't like that anymore anyways. So you have to have some balance to it. But just thinking of like, and I get it. I get jaded and complacent in a lot of ways with each level. And that's where, the drive comes to keep pushing for more, like, building a team, building a brokerage, buying more properties. And I don't know if everybody's necessarily built with that kind of tenacious hunger per se, but also it's something that's coached or trained. Because I don't think if I hadn't done years at Tom Ferry or all the spiritual work I'd done in Santa Monica that I would be where I was. Like I was kind of like a overweight, sad, little like lost person when I was in my early 20s. And it took a lot of years to get even remotely, like at least 10 years. Like I grew up with amazing parents, like wonderful people, very good to me. They didn't hand me everything in life, but they did buy me like an older Jeep for my first car, not a brand new Jeep. And there was never a struggle with money or anything. But when I was in real estate, I must have been like 25, 26 in 2011 maybe, and the market was really tough and I wasn't making the sales. I didn't have a ton of money. And I've never even said this publicly. My car got repossessed and it was to my parents' address. And never forget that day, my mom calls me and she's like crying, "They're here to pick up your car." And I'm like, "What? What's wrong with it?" As the 800 numbers are calling and calling and calling. She's like, "They're repossessing your car." And, after it all settled down, my mom looks at me, a few weeks later, and she's like, why didn't you ask us for help? I was like, Mom, that's not how you raised me. You know, it was a disappointing moment, but like I wasn't ever asking for anybody to bail me out of things. So going through that hard time, you know, having no money, I mean, from that point forward, I was like, never again in my life will I ever get here, ever. Like I'm going to do nothing but make my parents proud, not asking for handouts. And that was really, maybe that was the pivotal moment.
I was going to say.
Probably. It's funny, people think like, oh, you're just 10-year, you know, overnight success, or you're just so fit and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but like I wasn't always there. Like I had to work really hard to get here. And the pain of that old life is probably what pushes me to keep doing the calls, keep going to the gym, keep reading the books, keep being extra nice to my husband all the time, calling my mom, you know, making time, making plans with friends, writing down my goals.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be there again.
Yeah. You accept what you tolerate. So that's, you know,
exactly.
Ed Milet was talking about goals and standards and saying
oh my
that
God,
goes hands
him.
in hand. Did you read the book one more?
Yeah. I love him.
Yeah.
I love his story. Yeah.
He was talking about goal planning and standards that you set. And he said, if that's a standard that you're willing to fall below, then that's the goal that you're not going to achieve. So it's like both sides of the coin, right? Goals and standards. So it's like you had that experience, and there could be, you know, the bigger Keri that has her car repossessed still out there, but it's the choices that you made in 2011 that made you the person you are today. And sometimes making those choices in those hard times are hard to be consistent with. So how did you actually keep that while you were in a dark place, while you were in that confusion in your 20s?
The people I was I was constantly trying to find positive groups of people to be around who were motivated and committed and wanted me to be around. So I'd always have to show up in those environments. And yeah, I mean, your good friends that are doing well in life will hold you to standards without even meaning to. Like the time I was 10 minutes late to see one of my good friends, Charity, she literally left. I was never, ever late to see her again. So yeah, you get what you tolerate. Yeah. Someone shows up late and you still wait for them. That was another Darren Hardy thing. Again, I think it's drilling into what you want and understanding that this is just what life is like. It just is a formula where you have to be intentional. You have to think positive. You have to be planned, and not everyone can do it. And that's why there's such a big gap between the rich and the rest. And that's why there is the 10% or the 1%. And it takes work. It's still constant work to keep growing and keep pushing.
It takes work to get there, and then it takes work to stay there.
Yeah, what the fuck? When can we retire?
Yeah, when does this work stop?
Which, yeah.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I think it's probably going to keep us on the same track, but to touch upon a little bit in the lightning round, when you were talking about taking the emotion out of it and being unattached to the outcome, because I think that's a topic that we haven't talked about with a lot of people yet, and I think it's something that a lot of people need to know about or find themselves in that situation, because we are all so passionate about what we do, and sometimes even more passionate when it's your own brokerage, or because you're just probably spending more hours in the business or more hours in your day. You know, it's funny. I find sometimes if it's a listing and I'll get an offer that's way below asking price, sometimes my immediate response is I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you incompetent? You're going to make me look stupid. Did you not look at the comparables? My seller would never, ever even look at this. Yeah. Like, what are you out of your mind? And then somehow I'll delay a little bit and I'll get it in front of the seller, because of course we have to present all offers, fiduciary responsibilities.
Yes, we do.
A lot of times does not always have the same response that I do. And it's funny because I find myself in this situation where I'm being reactive and getting emotional about a property that's not mine. And the seller's sometimes willing to entertain it or to work with it, depending on their situation. So how do you make it so that you're not attached to the outcome? How do you try to take some of the emotion out of it in your business?
Yeah. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, though, because you're just like, and then you're like, it's fine. Everything's fine. I don't care. Whatever. But, again, it's the experience, the repetition, being attached to the outcome for sales, for clients, for listings, whatever, really is, I think, the biggest downfall for a career as a real estate agent. Like, there's just, and it's funny dealing with agents on the other side. I think agents are more important in my market than the clients themselves. Like, the agent relationships has really helped propel my success with my clients. When they like you and you bring the offer to the table, they're much more excited to work with you. It's a huge thing. Don't ever be a dick to another agent in your market.
Yep.
Somebody else will be a dick to them for you if you need that, but not you. You can find somebody. But I'm just saying, like, you really have to treat them all with respect, because how many times you're negotiating with an agent and they're like, well, my client's never going to go for that. That's ridiculous. You must be crazy. This is stupid. And then they call their client's like, that's great. Yeah, let's sign it. So you can't speak for your client ever. And your opinion is only your opinion based on your circumstances. And there are so many times, like, especially lately, just with all the changes, where I get so frustrated with a client. I'm like, I sent them the comps. Like, I'm so good at what I do. Like, I'm getting them this house. They just need to come up 30,000 more. And then they're like, we'll pass. And the agent's like, wow, I've got 40 offers. They're going to pass. And I'm like, yeah, where's the vodka? But like, you sometimes get it, but then you remember it doesn't matter, because a few minutes later, another client calls you with their own saga, and then another deal and another deal. So there's always something else going on. Then in reality, who cares what's happening in that moment? Because if you look back at every sale you ever had, didn't you think it was always going to fall apart every single day? Right?
Yeah, right.
You never thought you'd sell the listing. You never thought you'd get that buyer in escrow. They all sell. They all sell. Some of them don't, very small percentage, but they all sell. So really remembering that, reminding myself that is really important, because you want to be the hero. If your listing doesn't sell, all of a sudden they're like, that photo's too light in color. Ooh, that video, I don't know, it's too long. The description, it's terrible. Why did you use that you become the punching bag to everything. And that's when things get so nuts. So, hey, I sent this to you in the beginning. You love my video, but we can tweak it. We can do it,
Well, you always have that the 2-week honeymoon stage, right?
Oh yeah.
You're flying high until day 14.
Mm-hmm.
Day 14, it's like, how come you didn't do an open house?
Yeah.
There was somebody in our market recently. I don't know if Nikki told you about it. They were sitting, they were trying to sell a townhouse in Hoboken.
Okay.
They were doing 7-hour open houses.
For sale by owner?
No,
Oh my
an
God.
agent. An agent. 7-hour open houses on like Wednesdays and Tuesdays. And then even when it went under contract, they were making the guy hold it open. And they're like, well, just for backups. And I'm like, dude, you're doing this like just to pick up leads, right? Like we can all, like
that's
agent
insane.
to agent, I get it. You're trying to just pick up more leads, right? And he's like, no, the seller's making me do it. I'm like, dude, get some balls, man.
Sometimes that's what they need. Wine and cheese open house. Nobody comes. Seller wanted it. Okay.
It's funny. It's, you think you wouldn't, you're just attached to the outcome because you're new in the business. You've only got one deal pending, and this one has to go through so that you can, make your first check or your next check.
True.
But people still are attached to the outcome even when they're, 3, 4, 5 years into the business.
Well, there's two sayings, right? Generate so you don't have to tolerate.
Yep.
So the more that you have going on, it's like, were you really pissed that that transaction fell apart because you did everything you possibly could? Or is it because you had other transactions that you produced instead of spending that time thinking you were safe?
Yeah.
So
it's a bummer when things cancel. It's always sad, but when you've got a bunch of other deals, it's the whole thing. Generate so you could, what was that? Generate so you could tolerate?
Generate so you don't have to tolerate.
Right. Okay. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. It's so true. It's like when you're dating and you're single. Patty Stanger, the million dollar matchmaker, she always used to say a pair and a spare, which I'm not sure the bowling reference, but she's always saying like one that you really like and then like a backup and something else. But basically, you have to have multiple options to make you sane. I think it's a lot of mind trickery.
Yeah. And one thing that you were saying is like when you're talking to other agents and they're like, my seller, my buyer, my this, my that. One practice that we always try to do is detaching ownership of that, right? It's like the seller, the buyer. And it's like when you're communicating it with the other agent, you're able to actually use it as a skill to develop trust with the other agent as well.
I'm writing that down. I don't really say that but that is, I'm going to talk to agents about that. I'm like, let's just say it's let's like
the seller.
We're a team. Like they're not really ours. They're just out there in crazy town trying to negotiate and they think they're right and whatever. Their baby's not cuter. But you and me, like we need to do this together.
I'm going to reference this again. Robert Greene was talking about, he wrote the 48 Laws of Power and he wrote the book Seduction. He's like, if you want it, turn your back on it. And so it's a lot of those things. It's like, if you really want it, then you don't have to be so clingy onto it. It's not, there's no ownership there. So then at that point in time, you're able to get more control, and they instantly are attracted to you at that point in time.
Of course, energy is huge. It's same with past clients. People are like, well, that's my client. I'm like, the day you close escrow, they are now out in the world and anyone can call them, meet them, knock on their door. You have to earn their business again every single day after that transaction. Like there shouldn't even be the word past clients. Like they're all just future clients or currently under contract clients, because you have to constantly earn their business and show them that you're the best agent for them.
Well, I'll shift it back on track. Now, if I was someone on your team during 2020 and 2021, and, I witnessed what you went through and all the ups, and I was somebody on your team today, what would I say the biggest challenges and what the differences are today versus what it was in 2020 and 2021?
2020. I'd say it's worse now than 2020, 2021. Those were blockbuster years, amazing years. It was the past year where things got so expensive in Los Angeles. So many people were starting to back out because it was so uber competitive. I mean, our home sales are down 49% year over year from January 2022 to January 2023. I mean, it's half across the market. Most agents are making about 30 to 40% less. Half the homes are selling. So there's a lot of agents will be pushed out of the market. But it definitely, when COVID hit, I, for some reason, had like 5 in escrow right when that happened, and none of them wanted to cancel. A lot of agents did have 5. I mean, we're not a high volume market in LA. Most people don't really sell more than 10 to 20 homes because that would be probably 20 or 30 million just right there. But having 5 in escrow at the time that didn't want to cancel, we were getting an email that inspections and all real estate had to be suspended that day, Saturday, as I was at an inspection with an inspector and my client. I'm like, ooh, the client. And I'm like, oh shit, like we're not supposed to be here right now. Big Brother's watching, what do we do? But no, that time fortunately was a product of my environment. Because I had so many confident buyers and sellers, I was like, fuck COVID, who cares? And I was kind of with a group of friends that felt the same way. But if I was hanging around people that were negative and the world was falling apart and they couldn't be near anybody and they were in their house for 3 months without going to the grocery store, they didn't drink themselves silly, like I just can't, that's just not my type of people.
Yeah.
Am I still talking? I'm sorry.
No, that was good. But if I was the same person on your team, you would see the accomplishments of 2020 and 2021, right? What challenges would you say were occurring in that timeline, and what challenges are happening now? So like they're completely different challenges, I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, being scared, thinking that our business was going to be removed as an essential business and that we wouldn't have a job, we wouldn't have an income, that we'd have to live off the government, which wouldn't be good. I guess generally, yeah, it's that scarcity mindset again, because the challenges then was dealing with something our world has never really experienced. Nobody's around during the Spanish flu really, but we really didn't know what was going on. So we could sit there and talk to our clients and tell them everything's going to be okay and the market will be fine and houses aren't going to drop in value because everyone's dying and there'll be tons of houses for everybody. We really didn't know. So it's just a lot of false hope. And, you have clients where you walk in and you're on the other side of the room. And I'd say the advice would be learning to mirror and match and be a chameleon, feeling empathetic to your client, but not taking on their struggle, and being there for them, but not taking it home with you. Like, don't kick the cat because your seller is stressed because they lost their job and they need to sell and they're not getting the offer they want. They're yelling at you that you're doing everything wrong. And, really just we've all had those clients. Luckily, it's not a lot of them, but we do. So my advice is to my team or agents out there is to learn to be a chameleon. If your client's really peppy and loud, you're really peppy and loud. If they're an analytic, like you speak slowly. It sounds crazy, but I even dress according to what client I'm seeing, which everybody wears sweatpants now anyways. So that's a whole thing. But, just trying to be like them in their world, because what's the saying? People work with people that they know, like, and trust.
Yeah, people who are like themselves.
Yeah, people like them, yeah. So
it's interesting because, this is a topic that we genuinely love.
Well, that's what I was going to ask Keri. Does the mirroring and matching your thought process come from Tom Ferry? Yes. Yeah, because that's
from Mike Ferry.
We got it from the big man too.
Yeah, his papa. I'm just kidding. The personality styles,
big
right?
Papa.
So, it's like would you agree, expressive?
I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like expressive personalities, you would dress, loud, and you'd be the center of attention in the room.
Not around most clients.
Yeah. But if you're going to an analytical person, you're the complete opposite. You're going to have to be more reserved. Yeah. And that's a skill set that many people don't understand, but it takes a long time.
Even if you're a slower agent, talk slower, more methodical. I'm like, if you've got a client that's moving fast, you better pick up the pace or shut up because they're going to bulldoze you over, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's interesting because you guys are, you know, somewhat of we're all young, right? So talk to me about leading into Mike Ferry over.
Did she say somewhat young? Somewhat young.
Well, because I'm almost 40, so I don't feel like I'm that young anymore.
I'm almost 42.
I'm almost 30.
We're 10 years apart. Yeah.
Like, are we still young if we're pushing?
We're still young.
A few years.
I'm going to be a chameleon and still be young.
So why Mike over Tom?
You know what's interesting?
I didn't know any different. It's not like I was like, oh, okay, I can go here or I can go here. The top agents in our market at that time were Mike Ferry agents. So I just went to Mike Ferry. And I was telling people this story the other day. Went to the first event, went in the back, gave him my credit card, signed up. I'm like, I don't know what this means that I signed up. Like, I don't know if they're going to tell me like how to dress, how to shower, how to eat different. Like, I don't even know what I'm signing up for. I just know that the top people in my market do this and I'm going to do it. I was super coachable. Yeah. It's awesome to know that they're both cut from the same cloth and to hear all sorts of terms like mirroring and matching. Of course, they didn't create that, but they embedded it in all of us.
There's some there's
a lot of value.
Yeah, like until like a year ago, we almost had the idea of like who you were coaching with was like what gang you were with. It was like the Crips and the Bloods. We were just like, oh, you with them? like stay away. Yeah. But we were so focused on skill development.
Coach.
Yeah, right. We were so focused on skill development and becoming like really good at selling, really good salespeople, and like how to talk, how to communicate, NLP, personality styles, how to adapt in certain situations. And then next thing you know, you go through this pandemic situation and you realize you're only one person that can make X amount of contacts and touch X amount of people with how amazing you are, right? But then you see someone who's new in the business who posts a couple of videos on social media and people are instantly attracted to work with them. That was just like pissing me off. I was like, John, do you see this guy? he doesn't even know what he's doing. And like people are going to him, it's pissing me off. Yeah. I was like, this is pissing me off. And he was just like, well, they're being versatile. They're adapting with the marketplace. I'm like, this ain't right. So then it's just like what Tom was teaching also had benefits. I guess you have to absorb the information that's out there and make an educated decision for yourself.
Exactly.
Based on what you want, I guess, more than anything else.
I'd agree with you. No, I got it. You know, it's funny. At one point I was like, wait, where? And then I'm like, oh, full circle. Got it. Just Tom's more video and Mike. Yeah. But it's what you know, right? Who you surround yourself with. If all the agents in your market are with Mike Ferry and they're doing well, you're like, who is Mike Ferry? How fast can I sign up?
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And probably a little bit more of an East Coast thing too. A lot more East Coasters are with Mike.
Totally. At what point did you realize like you had to be more versatile and you had to, like you said before, that sometimes, if you know, you're meeting with somebody that's X personality, you might talk differently or you might dress differently. At what point did you realize that? Because for me, it was very late.
For me, it was very early, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it was like acting classes or something. I don't know. I just remember when I was very first in the business, I had a gay client. Can I say that on here? I don't know what's PC. Yeah. And like I dressed like all cute and like heels. I was like, hey, I was so cute. And he was like, oh yeah. And I was like, this is fucking great. It was like lightning in a bottle. Let's do more. Where else are we going? Who are we meeting? You know, are they Chinese? Like, hello. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna get kicked off your podcast. You can't say this stuff anymore.
Nah, you can say whatever the hell you want. That's why we have our own platform.
Okay, got it.
Or we might get kicked off YouTube.
That's true.
I think one of the interesting exercises for me was my coach at the end of 1 year said, hey, I want you to make a list of all the transactions you did. Now our price point was much lower, so 500,000 average sale price.
Average.
That deal, I think I did 75 transactions, 100 transactions, and they said, I want you to write down the personality style next to each transaction. And what happened was, you know, of what that client was. And I went down and I'm analytical and 80-90% of the list was analyticals. And what her point was very well proven that I was attracting only people who appreciated the numbers. I would show up at your kitchen table and say, all right, well, I have every comp here that's ever existed in your neighborhood. And here they're all sorted by square footage. And here's an Excel sheet if you'd prefer to see it in a flow chart and all this other crazy shit. And I was just repelling the drivers that wanted me to just get right to the point, and the expressives that wanted to tell me how beautiful their house was and show me every other little room. And I just wanted to sit at the table and talk about the numbers. Yeah. So for me, that's when I realized.
Well, that's when you learn. But why does John, an analytical like yourself, start a podcast? Because that's not in your wheelhouse, right? Who told you to do that?
it was a coach that said, honestly, we did it for accountability reasons. We said, hey, let's hold ourselves accountable to have one high level conversation every single week with somebody who inspires us, somebody who terrifies us, somebody who can provide value. So we started doing that. And then our coach was like, you should record these and it would hold you accountable. So like we were telling somebody else, if we just did this in our office, I think, and said, all right, well, every day or every Wednesday at 4:00, we're going to do this. It's a lot easier to back out. So, we committed to this studio that's way nicer than the product that we're putting out there. And now we have, I jokingly say that we got keys to the Ferrari, but we don't know how to drive it. But we're learning as we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're all doing.
We're building the plane as we fly it.
It's great. I think it's awesome.
When did you learn that, the versatility part of it?
That's part of it. I don't really know. Yeah. There's answers I have today, but that is not one.
Okay, good.
It's just along the lines of...
It doesn't necessarily have to be versatility, but I think expressives, I would say, are very good at connecting with all the personality styles.
True. And you think about like people who make you feel good. They're usually very charming, and they may sometimes be uncomfortably charismatic or in your face, but you always feel a little bit better. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. You look great. How are you? Sometimes they come a little too close, but you're always like, God, they're so cool. They really like me. It's like, why not be that person that when someone walks in your room, you stand up and you're like, hey, KIRO, hey, John, so good to see you. How you been? Instead of those people that sit at the table at dinner and then they give people that hug, I'm like, I always stand up when people walk into a room. Like, that is just a non-negotiable. Like, you want them to feel like you're excited they're there, even if you're not.
Well, even just your energy for this conversation, right? I mean, there's times where we do an episode and the guest is, like, how did you get started in the business? And they're like, well, I went to a seminar and then I got my license. And you're like, all right, this is going to be one of those conversations.
Yeah. And then.
So even if you're not like, necessarily the most energetic and enthusiastic person, I think if the guest in this scenario or the client is bringing it to the conversation, it makes the whole experience that much more exciting.
I have a question for you. In terms of you being a partner with your husband and, working together, a lot of people who are out there, they either advise for it or like advise strongly against it. Any tips on what to do and what not to do in those situations? That's
a good question. I said many times, I don't want to work with my husband. Like, I don't want to be going to bed at night talking about termite inspections and all this stuff. But being a real estate salesperson is actually such a small portion of the real estate world. And we, without knowing, became business partners when we bought, literally 2 weeks before COVID hit, which was like March 17th or 18th, we purchased our first investment home together. We decided to do a short-term rental on it. And it's in Palm Desert, in La Quinta. And right as this was happening, obviously we spent a lot of money and we were furnishing it. And then COVID hit, and then Coachella was canceled, which April was supposed to be a $30,000 a month. And then they're like, you can't Airbnb your property. So anyways, that whole story ended up being an incredible investment. But we became business partners without even knowing we were going to become business partners. So we already spent 2 years going at it with my idea, his idea, what we needed to do, who was responsible, fucking things up, like figuring out all the systems of an Airbnb. It's the same thing as a real estate agent or a team. Like, it's a whole industry with a lot of ins and outs that you don't know. They have forums and they have all these apps and conferences. It's like a whole thing. So I feel like we worked out so many kinks in that format that when it came time to discuss running a brokerage together, we knew where we stood in it. And I'd say it was okay to kind of test it out on the Airbnb business. But if you're going to get into a partnership with your partner, just one, it depends. Like, I like my own space. I like my own friends. I like doing my own things too. And when you start to work with someone, you spend a lot more time with them. So keep in mind, what do you want? Maybe you maybe like being with your husband or wife all the time, but keep some distance. Learn each other's, whether they're a driver, an analytic, an expressive, an amiable, and figure out what does each person excel at. Like, who's the one's going to do the Excel sheets and pay the maids and do the finances, and who's the one's going to organize photos and put them on the website. And the same thing with running a brokerage. Like, who's going to do the systems? Who's going to do the hiring and firing? Understanding you both will have different things you bring into it, and that it might get a little, incestual with things. But really knowing each other's roles and respecting that person and taking yourself from being the boss and let them have a co-ownership to it. That was also a long answer.
No, that was a great answer.
Or just don't do it at all. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Or don't do it, you know? But it does, you know, keep alive. Yeah.
How do you turn it off at the end of the day so that you're not talking about termites?
I don't. My husband goes, and we're done. We're done, and we're done, and we're done. I'm like, no, he's, we have our lives. We have our friends. We go to dinner. We detach and just have fun. But he has the boundaries on that. I could talk about work and clients and projects and ideas forever. So he puts the brakes on, and I respect that.
It's good that one of you can draw the line, I guess.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, hey,
Keri, thank you so much. This is a great
awesome
session of just sharing ideas. I think we touched upon a lot of good things there.
We didn't talk about social media.
And well, I think that's what excites
I love
me
the
the
hustle.
most.
Great.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
The grit,
Look at
the
that.
hustle,
Hustle.
the personality styles.
My sign says hustle right behind me.
I thought she was going to pull out another glass of champagne. I was going to go
I
wild.
wish. I wish.
She's like, this one's from 2 weeks ago. Awesome.
It was behind the computer. No, you guys are wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a great time with you this afternoon. Anybody wants to send you a referral in Los Angeles or reach out to you in any way, what's the best way to reach you?
I would say DM me, but that can be a cluster. So you can DM me, but probably easiest is my email, Keri@KeriWhite.com, which is KERI@KERIWHITE.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Were you going to say something?
Anything that you're working on that you want to share with anybody? Anything cool, hip that somebody should look out for?
The new brokerage.
Just, yeah, we have our official launch, which will be in the past from when this goes up, but just to watch the journey of a husband and wife team coming together, not to work together as a team, but to run a brokerage and to learn to do it, because we've gotten the whole rundown of how most brokerages fail. So we're going to try to defy the odds on the way we do it. And it's all about the human element. We're not in a cloud. We're not working from home. We're coming belly to belly, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to change the way that COVID pulled us into a box. So watch out for human element in Los Angeles.
Awesome.
Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Wishing you all the best and all the success. Thank you again. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.